and welcome the next speaker, Amitabh Satyam, Chairman, Smart Transformations. He has over 25 years of leadership experience in technology-driven organizations, formerly managing partner at SAP, where he was an advisor on digital transformations. He also established the global IoT practice at IBM and led it for 2 years. Amitabh recently co-authored the book, The Smart City Transformations, which is an authoritative guide on the SMART framework. He has taught in the USA for 4 years and received the Hazel S. Brown Teaching Excellence Award at Ohio State University. Amitabh graduated from IIT Kanpur and did an MBA from Fisher College of Business, USA. Please welcome Amitabh Satyam on the stage.
Good afternoon, namaste. After Modi ji has come, Indians do namaste more than we did before. So good to be here. Let me take you through some topics about sustainability and smart city. If you talk about smart cities, most people have an opinion of IoT. Some other people think it is city planning. Some other people think it is about, someone from there was talking about machine learning and artificial intelligence, data centers, cloud computing, automatic car, self-driven or driverless car. So anything that you bring to this world today and talk about it, it appears to be it's a smart solution. So today I have been asked to focus primarily on sustainability aspects of it. So I'll touch upon a little bit about the conceptual framework of how smart connects very well with sustainability. I'll just take this off. Think about this. How much is a typical mobile phone cost today? Average one. I don't mean iPhone, which is overly expensive. 3,000? Okay, well, I'll just take 10,000 for a good average phone, but Qualcomm 635, etc. And how much is a typical 3-bedroom apartment cost in Bangalore? Somewhere here, about 1 crore? But depends on which area, but I'm going to take average of 1 crore. So 1 crore for a house and 10,000 for mobile phone. So it's 10,000 times, right? So if you look at the cost of one house, which is a tiny apartment essentially, is equal to 10,000 phones. But look at the number of people who are involved in developing mobile phones, writing software, developing newer hardware. You know, the market cap of Apple is $1 trillion almost. But what's wrong with investing in something which is 10,000 times more expensive? So my apartment is 1 crores worth, my mobile phone is 10,000 rupees worth, but my investment, my energy, everything goes into this. If we were to reduce, let's say, house cost, the input cost, which includes cement and other things, even by 10%, we are still buying 1,000 phones, right? But then look at the other aspect of it. We are reducing energy cost. We are reducing transportation cost of cement, labor, bricks, steel, all of that. So even a percentage change in the consumption of natural resources has 1,000 times more impact than trying to optimize your search engine result from going from 1 nanosecond to another 10% better. So from all I wanted to establish is the scale of things. We focus so much on IT and several other optimization engines and artificial intelligence, where this huge thing is out there for us to optimize on. So I just wanted to start with that. So natural resources or technology. When I say technology, I mean mobile phone technology, information technology, optimizing certain processes. All of that comes under newer technology. Whereas our biggest expense, if you look at your own lifetime earnings, most Indians practically invest all of their money in real estate. Therefore, real estate is very expensive. Real estate also means road infrastructure. It also means bridges. It also means all those buildings and offices. So I just wanted to draw your attention to this whole framework of when we say technology, we should also apply technology to the areas where you have maximum return. 10%, 20% savings on real estate expenses would actually save you a lot. So let's look at the load that our humanity and civilization puts on the nature. Land, minerals, people, which includes us, animals, we still use animals, many of us even eat them, and fossil fuels. So these are the natural resources, and we consume them. And what I want to do is think about how using technology, whichever form of technology we're talking about, we should be able to reduce these consumption of natural resources. And if we did that, we would call ourselves smart. I know smart is an overly used word, but in my book, I have been trying to consistently pursue that, smart is not IoT. Although, as she announced, I was heading IoT at IBM globally, and therefore my mind always works on IoT. However, if you're looking at, just take a step back and look at the bigger picture of the world, IoT has an enabler role in this whole concept of smart, but still just an enabler role. Our objective should be to minimize our load that we put on nature, and these are the kind of things that we should be focusing on. All right. So technology is actually already reducing the need for space, which we sometimes don't realize. I just want to give a small, tiny example. About 20 years ago, televisions used to be this big, right? 3 foot by 4 foot or something like that, huge. You had cassette players, you had millions of hundreds of cassettes taking up so much space, and the media, your photo albums, and all of that is in this kind of device today. Almost 15 to 20% of the space that earlier was consumed by these media is gone. But are we looking at, instead of buying 2,000 square foot apartment, are we buying 1,600 square foot apartments today? We should say, hey, I don't need so much space, so I'm just take smaller rooms. I don't need to store as much. So I just wanted to highlight that when you store things, I know my mother doesn't like to throw away things. I keep telling her that this little space that you are storing something little tiny things worth only 500 rupees is actually costing you 10,000 rupees because that's the square footage rate, right? So we need to be able to optimize based on that as well. So small footprint is already there for you. I would actually hope that with this newer technology that mobile phone is becoming the media center, you actually give away that space back and say, I'm going to live in a smaller apartment now. So technology is already enabling you to do that. And whatever. Kitchen and laundry is another topic I will pick up another day. So the key deliverables of SMART, especially when it comes to sustainability, is we have to basically improve happiness, quality of life. There are hundreds of, or not hundreds, but dozens of different frameworks of how to measure communities, people, cities, countries, who's happy, who's richer, less crime, more resources, more energy. There are dozens of ways of measuring it. But ultimately, someone says, like Bhutan says, I'm going to just measure happiness. If I measure happiness, everything else is a subset of that. So let's just think of something more conceptual like that, SMART should improve your happiness levels, basically quality of life. And that what is the next step from there? You should be able to do more with less. So we talk about changing the light bulbs, going from 100 or maybe 200, 300, 400 watts on the street down to only 10 to 20 watts using LED. Now here we see a very clear and direct application of good technology being used to reduce overall load on nature. Reducing loss of use of natural resources. Reducing human effort. I think in my book I jokingly mentioned about this everyone's objective of life, as I said jokingly, but I can actually technically prove it too, is to reduce you want to maximize the area that if you define luxury, it just becomes that you want to lie down and not do much, essentially. So if you can derive a lot of things from there, minimizing human effort is what drives people to do things. So innovation is driven by, instead of doing that, I can do it this way. And so I say, well, what do you gain? I don't have to go there anymore. Okay, so why not? Because you probably don't like going there anymore. So therefore, one of the purposes of smart technology should be to reduce human labor. I also put animal effort. We beat them quite a bit. Reducing waste. And overall, improve health and lives of people. And protecting assets. Assets are physical assets, intellectual assets, land, animals, all of that. And also align governments to people objectives. I know this is slightly political, how do you align government to people's objectives? That is by definition true because we elect them, but in reality a lot of things go differently. And most countries have a minority government, so it is hard to simply say that the people wanted this, even though you're running the government. Finally, one important part that every time you talk about technology, any time you talk about innovation, the cost should be well within the reach of average people. I know if you go to San Francisco, they come up with amazing solutions, and I keep thinking, but I'm only gaining so much advantage by doing this. But it's going to cost me so much, and my average people cannot afford it. So we should immediately start rejecting solutions actually right from that point. If it's too expensive, don't even bother. So let's look at how technology helps in sustainability or smart. Sometimes we do the same thing, but in a new way. So technology doesn't really have to force you to change or start doing newer things. You have been doing something every day, but now you're doing it differently. You were able to read paper before. You have to go down and buy or go to the library, but then people started getting newspapers at home. Now you just click and open. So essentially you are reaching the same objective, but it's in a new way. So that is one application of technology. And then apply existing ways in a new situation. Similarly, you do new things that do not exist at all. For example, Hyperloop is a great example where you're just conceptualizing new ways of doing things that didn't exist before. Now that can also reduce load on nature. So, and then provide insights. I just wanted to put it in there, otherwise analytics guys would hate me. And then enabling newer processes. Enabling newer processes. I'll give you a quick example. Some time ago, I was in a small town, and the municipal commissioner wanted to talk to me about smart city. They wanted to put some solutions. They say, oh, I don't have much money, and with so little money, how do I really do much? Then first thing I said, let's look at transforming your processes. And at the end of the day, we concluded that almost at zero cost, they can do half the things done. One example was that the city hospital had 5 ambulances. Technically, if you look at it, going and coming somewhere, 1 hour at the most. So 24 hours, one ambulance can do 24 patients, times 5, 120. So 120 patients can be brought to the hospital by using those 5. What happens is they don't do more than 2 or 4 or 5. Because the processes, first of all, it's a government, so half the efficiency goes right there. But even with the well-intending people, your processes are designed in a way that it doesn't allow you to achieve your objectives. So you simply sit down and think about including, you do that your home processes as well, how you get things done at home. If you can constantly keep thinking, you can transform some of those processes and you do better. So just by allowing them to think that you can transform some of these processes, I said, you make sure that somebody picks up a phone within 5 rings or 3 rings, If you do that, then make sure that this happens very quickly. So for no extra money, they were able to achieve a lot. So I had this prescription for them, 5 things you can do without investing a penny, 5 things you can do, again, without investing a penny, but with a private partnership who would actually invest money, and 5 things where you have to invest money. So till you have done those first 10 things, don't worry about complaining that there is no money in the system. All right, so that was just on a side example, but my personal life, I have spent, although I have been in telecom and IoT, but most of my time has gone in using these capabilities to transform business processes. Now they call digital transformation, which is a more fun word. These solutions have existed for a long time, vehicle tracking, monitoring, TV, etc. But some of the other things are new things. Hyperloop. I love this concept. I met with the CEO recently in a conference like this, and I hung out with him, had dinner. It is amazing, and I hope that Mumbai, Pune, etc. it actually takes off before the government loses power. And then the low power, low area, the Internet of Things. I think everyone here is talking about Internet of Things, and low power sensors and such things are an integral part. So I'm not going to go through the list, but these are the newer things that you can do today, which will be a contribution from technology intending to reduce costs. And similarly, there was another 3 or 4 months ago, there was a conference on transportation. I got invited for some reason. And then all the speakers were so worried that, right now just look at the outer ring road. There's so much traffic and it takes me 3 hours. This guy said it takes me 4 hours. This guy said I don't even go out anymore. So I said, imagine how bad it is today and see how much worse it will be 10 years from now. We are going to be over, Bangalore will die. So when my turn came, I simply said, 10 years from now, no one will be going out. We'll all be doing what we do today from wherever we are. And so don't look at actually adding to the physical infrastructure in the name of linearly projecting the trend. The trend will change because the newer way of doing things will come around. And I still think that we should not be building more roads. We should be transforming our businesses, in a way that people can work from wherever they are. Having 2 homes, one for the night, one for the day, having 2 telephone numbers, having, spouse at home and a secretary at work, and all those things are it's an overcommitment of resources. We could be reducing those, we could be reducing just by transforming our lives. We could be doing more and more effectively as well. And then, of course, if you don't go to office, there is no need to build a new office. So the civil infrastructure and all that will be reduced. We will be building fewer cars. So, of course, if your objective is to increase consumerism, that is always in conflict with sustainability. So that will keep aside for now. But if you're focusing on smarter way of living by reducing overall load on nature, you must be thinking about these things that are already possible. In my book, again, I was joking that taking an 80-kilo person to America and back costs more fuel than taking photons of his pictures. So video conferencing is a very popular way of physically being somewhere else. So the point is that there are newer concepts that are already existing, but we have to start believing that that is how the world is going to be. It is physical touch and feel are required only for very, very few things, mostly in our minds. So coming to this topic of, actually, how much, I didn't get to turn this on. Kitna time? Okay, 20. Okay, got it. I have plenty of time. Thank you. I didn't see that. So coming to this topic of smart cities, it's very exciting. It's very, very exciting. I've been to so many countries just to talk about this. It's been very exciting 1 year since I wrote my book. And it's mainly because of this. Everyone is focusing on it. Those who are vendors are salivating. Oh my God, is it really so much? But one of my employers earlier, we started a cloud business 7, 8 years ago as a different business entity. But then suddenly in the first year itself, we made like $3 billion. And people were shocked, how can you make $3 billion in first year when you're just starting out the cloud business? And that was because the existing businesses were also now moved under the newer name called cloud. So suddenly we became cloud of $3 billion. So same thing here, the smart cities, even the existing stuff that we do today is now just being prefixed with the smart. So that suddenly smart city appears to be a very big thing. It is a very big thing, and I'll very quickly talk about some of the market dynamics and how the industry is restructuring itself to align with these smart concepts. So tons of money, 16 times India's GDP, 2 times US GDP, these are very large numbers. And if you think about the kind of excitement this concept has from anywhere in the world, like I said, once somebody thinks of sustainability, so those guys are in, the green guys are in, even the agriculture guys are in, IoT, electronics, IT, everybody is in anyway. So who is not under smart umbrella, it's hard to define, very few. And if they don't do that, then they'll not be called smart, so they're anyway coming under the smart umbrella. So the smart framework essentially involves resources, environment, affordability, and convenient, and to make life better. That is one-liner way or one simpler way of defining smart. You reduce resources, you improve the environment, you improve convenience, and make even more affordable. So by the time you think about, okay, I'm going to reduce resources and improve environment, suddenly your costs have gone up. Instead of using gold, now you're using platinum. It's not a great solution. You must reduce cost as well. By cost means affordability. And of course, the telecom companies, the mobile companies, an example of how we are able to achieve more with less. But we should apply that to other areas as well. I started out saying 10,000 times, mobile phone or IT systems versus real estate. I actually keep feeling bad. My house in Mumbai has a huge fat walls. I just constructed 10 years ago. They put so itna strong banayenge. And then for that, the objective was that, the thicker the wall, the richer you feel. That is so stupid. But I had no way of challenging the guy. So there has to be a smarter way of thinking about some more civil engineering. We need more civil engineers. Whoever asks me, my nephews and others, what engineering should I take? I keep saying civil engineering. And I've been doing it for 10 years and everyone still hates me that, you told me civil and there's no jobs yet. And that still shocks me that why aren't civil engineering jobs? India is transforming at the largest rate. We are every project of civil engineering is in thousands of crores or billions of dollars. And still there are no civil engineers, those who are not getting jobs. So there must be some disconnect. Another topic, but coming back to this one, it's all involves around sustainability, that civil engineers should be optimizing the costs. They don't do that, so we overspend. Or we get some foreign consultant, I don't know how much, they also charge money. So I'm just going to talk about smart components. This is slightly more exciting for me. Typically, when we think about smart, if you go to a small town in Bihar, they will talk about infrastructure. They say, bijli nahi, pani nahi, road nahi. So typically, it will come down to infrastructure. But if you go to some countries, possibly in Africa, I guess, they will say, oh, governance, the government is not very effective at all. In fact, people are cheating money and all that. Safety, if you go to an American city or a European city, safety is the biggest concern. India is one of the safest countries. Safety is very bad in all those countries compared to here. Nepal is the safest country, by the way, but after that, it's us. Disaster management, we are extremely bad here. So whoever you talk to, you would always be finding something wrong somewhere. So in this one picture, I have just put together the 12 elements or the 12 components of smart. So infrastructure is obviously for India more important. The last one that you see at, 11 o'clock is called anticipate. And I have deliberately not used the word called technology or IoT or prediction or analysis, because what you're deriving from all of these technologies together is ability to anticipate. When someone talked about industrial IoT or Industry 4.0, it is not about automating things, but it is about some sort of self-automation. The machines are smart enough to figure things out. If that is so, then anticipation means you are able to have some sort of a predictability built into the system. So all of that will require you to deploy sensors, will require you to have all this data collection, communication, going to the back end, doing analytics and such things. So anticipate, all of the technology guys here, I have all clubbed you inside that word called anticipate, because that's basically what the modern and cool technology does today. I have proposed a way of drawing a map like this, simply by connecting all this outside things. And I just called it a smart map. So if you have a city that you want to talk about, you look at a map and say, this is my smart map, this is how it looks. And there are more things that we can do, which I don't have time to discuss today. But this smart also gives you a way of creating an index for each city. And I call them smart index. So when you talk of technology and sustainability, the first thing that comes is how do you actually take physical infrastructure, like this building or a bridge, and they say you have to somehow find some sort of a mapping to the digital world, because that's how we know how to control things. That is how we can look at the screen and say something is not going right. I remember the movies from the 80s. They used to have some movies from like The Burning Train and other things where you had a huge screen and where people could see where the trains are and they were able to make decisions. Similarly, today, if you go to a telecom NOC, the Network Operations Center, they have like similar things. A very large screen, they're looking at all the points of failures and with the red line and all that. So we have to connect the physical infrastructure to the digital infrastructure. And if the mapping is where the biggest challenge is, because physical infrastructure has existed for billions of years. The digital infrastructure has also existed for 30, 40, 50 years. But it is how we take a physical parameter and map it to the digital measurable is where the challenge is. I know everybody knows sensor, I know, but instead of saying sensors, I just wanted to say it this way. So I have defined these 8 layers. This is physical infrastructure. From there you derive something function specific. Is it the length, it is the height, it is the temperature expansion, or is it climate or whatever. You identify that function specific system of this entire physical infrastructure. For example, the bridge expands in the heat. You measure that expansion, and that is your abstraction. Once you are able to abstract out then you have gone to the digital world. And then you jump to the blue era. You connect it somewhere, then there's a data, is all this cloud and everything is stored. Then you analysis, recommend action. This is a standard IoT thing that you have all seen somewhere else. But I have deliberately done it in two different ways because I don't want to ignore the physical part. And our effort, if you are especially in the sensor area, is to map real life problems, looking at the physical infrastructure, and then figure out how I'm going to abstract the measurable out of it. Then you start thinking of sensors, chemical sensor, mechanical sensor, physical, temperature, whatever. So to me, digital and physical somehow, that is where whether how you define IoT 4 or Industry 4.0 or whatever you think about, this is my one-liner way of defining it. I'm going to skip this because I see 6 minutes left. This everybody knows, but let me just put it in a simple way because I have some other conferences, people like this. So this is the real world, this building, the road, whatever, education, healthcare, human body, that's the physical world. And then we connect some device which is able to measure the abstracted value, which is a sensor essentially. And then you're using a communications into a data center, which is where the data is stored. And there you do all this cool stuff. So in this diagram, I just wanted to put together all the disparate elements together so that we can have in one picture how the smart technologies work. And this is the slide I want to spend a couple of minutes on. Now, just think about this. Suppose you are a smart city CEO of a city, and then let's say your team has advised you to do smart poles, right? What are the smart poles? You deploy them, you have 10, 20, 15 sensors measuring light, measuring temperature, measuring oxygen or pollution, also has cameras that is physically looking at things, maybe can even have telecom towers. So there are many multiple uses of a smart pole. And then you also have a light there, which is essentially what we do, have a light, and that light should turn on and off automatically. So this is a typical smart pole. Now, who would you give this contract to? IBM? A lot of computing involved, right? Measuring all of these things, capturing data, doing some microprocessor work, sending the data to cloud, analyzing, receiving data back, turning the lights on. Should smart pole vendor be IBM? Or maybe Wipro, because Wipro has IT as well as lights, slightly better. So out of 10 things, they have 2. Who else? Can you think of, or should you just go back to the same pole guy and say, why don't you dig the pole and put the pole and I'll see you exactly what we can do after. But the pole design itself depends on the sensor that you're installing on it. The point of all this, just I wanted to highlight this, is no industry today is aligned to do smart. You know, IoT guys are doing IoT on their own way, sensor guys are doing their own sensor thing, and they should continue doing those. Because then we need to have this R&D, we need to have these newer capabilities. Like the sensor provides, the analytics provides, the certain newer, you have 5G with very low latency. You also have very low energy, small area network where, you don't need so much energy. There's so many different innovations in telecom, in wireless communication, which are required today. Low range, high bandwidth, low bandwidth, and all that. So all of these will continue to doing what they're doing. But how do you actually bring them together like the smart pole example? The smart pole example shows that there has to be a certain entity. So what I'm talking about here, and that is a couple of big lectures actually, but I'm just combining them into one, that these are the layer 1. There are people who will continue to do what they're doing today, making sensors, making analytics engines, machine learning capabilities, or basically if you put sensors and things, it covers a lot of it. Batteries, portability, such things. And then you have communication again, so in sensor you have like maybe let's say there are about 1,000 sensors. Connected, I'm not going to spend much time, but let's say there are 20 of that kind. Communication, there are 100 communication possibilities today. And data is the analytics part. I don't want to call analysis there, so I just put data. So you have another 20 different types or 100 different types of approaches of how you can do data analytics. So if you combine these things, there are at least 1 million solutions out there with the existing stuff. So when you talk about million different combinations, That is the example of a smart pole. It has a combination of so many different things. Smart pole requires some sensor, connector, communication, data, and then a few other external things. Unique solution, but requires IT guys, requires IoT guys, requires electrical guys, requires civil guys. So what I'm proposing here is there are going to be players in the market that's going to integrate these capabilities and create one solution. Like there will be a company called Smart Pole Company. For example, there are people still do the old way, the smart pole, but going forward, it is much easier for the CEO of a smart city to talk to one company that is selling a smart pole rather than going to 10 vendors. So integration capability is like an SI you can imagine. But I'm talking about SI here because if you add the pricing and go to market and commitments, etc., it becomes a solution. So way I'm thinking the market dynamics is going to change a little. Many companies have to restructure themselves to see exactly where they stand. This is just like a diagram that you can use to see where do I stand. This is technology and this is business. There are technology players that will continue to innovate. All the innovation will happen in this area. Product innovation, IT innovation, going from micrometer to nanometer to sub-nanometer, processing chips, all of that will happen in this area. And then someone will integrate the capabilities and create the and go to customers. So quickly running through this. So things to do. I skipped a few slides. So when we give away tasks to machines, you must know how to control them. This is a thing to do for everybody. This is very philosophical, very generic statement. But to me, we need to keep thinking about this. Otherwise, everyone says machines will take over, and we have to figure out how to actively and constructively engage with machines. There's no comprehensive operating system for smart cities or even IoT yet. All right, so I'm just going to quick to last one, and then I'll go. Life is good, and enjoy the unemployment. I always like to talk about this in a little bit, and I'll do it quickly. I have 0 minutes left. That the way economy is changing, the way the technologies are evolving, fewer and fewer people are required to be doing those things, and everybody knows these things. But then there will be more physical outcomes. There will be more products. There will be more tastier foods and better movie theaters in the economy, but there will be fewer people doing it all. So we must have to find a way of being unemployed because you will not be able to contribute to most of it because you're not required to. 1 lakh people doing 1 million phones a year now has come down to 1,000 people doing 2 million phones a year. So which one is a better situation? We don't know the answer. I have an opinion, but no answer. So let's continue to think about these things. And I want to thank you for your time. I really enjoy talking to you.
Usual thing.
Thank you. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Different presentation.
Thank you so much.